Hey everybody, it's Nate and Steph from Adventure in a Backpack, and today we are going to be talking to you about solar. One of the big projects we had on our camper van was solar power and solar electricity, all that kind of stuff. There's lots of confusion on a lot of Facebook groups and van build threads and all that kind of stuff. And we basically wanted to clear a few things up, and more importantly, talk about the way that we did it, because we have put a lot of research into the way that our solar panel system is all set up. That being said, we're not professionals. We don't know everything there is to know about solar power, and so I'm likely going to say some things that are incorrect. I'm probably going to use the word power whenever I should have used the word energy or stuff like that. But
technicalities.
We know we get the gist of it. So anyway,
I think we get more than the gist of it, but
yeah. So I think the best way we decided that we're going to be able to kind of put this into a video is we've already got quite a few questions, and so basically Stephanie is going to ask questions and I'm going to answer them, and then she's going to add a little bit to them, and then we're going to go over this whole thing in very, very small detail later on. So yeah, so you ready to get started?
Yeah, let's go for it. Okay, so the very first question that we always get is the basics. How big is our solar setup?
Okay, so our solar setup, we have two 350 amp batteries for a total of 700 amp hours. They're AGM batteries, so we can only use half of the amp hours essentially. We'll talk about that later. On the roof, we have 165 watt panels totaling.
That's 825 watts.
825 watts. So yeah, 825 watts of solar up top and 700 amp hours worth of batteries is essentially our solar system.
Cool. Yeah, so that's obviously a massive system for a van like this. So why are we sized like that?
So we kind of so we got, a few different reasons we wanted to do it like that. Like you said, it's oversized, it's excessive, all that kind of stuff. We kind of wanted to see what was possible in a Sprinter, but for a kind of a less selfish reason. Basically, we saw a problem. We saw a problem at a lot of the places we go to, which is like trailheads and paddling put-ins and climbing crags and all this kind of stuff. We saw a problem with people, other outdoorsmen like ourselves, other adventurers were at these places. They would go hiking for the day or whatever the activity of the area was, and then they would come back to the trailhead, and if they were camping at the trailhead overnight, they would fire up their car and charge their phones, charge their cameras, all that kind of stuff. And we kind of saw that as like huge waste. It's like, you're firing up an internal combustion engine, not being super environmentally friendly, wasting gas, aka money, stinking up the campground. It's just like, it was just a huge problem that we saw, honestly. Like, I don't know why it struck so close to home, but it kind of did. And so we wanted to, kind of help fix that problem. So going forward, anytime we show up at a trailhead or any of those places that we're at, we have power to spare. Like, people can come over and like charge their phones, all that kind of stuff. If we're here, if we're not here, we have a little box that we can set out the side. A little notifications that, hey, come charge your stuff. It's solar power, all this kind of stuff. Basically, that's how we were going to be able to use this as a way to give back to adventurers. So
yeah, perfect. And so that being said, with that setup that we have, what all will that power?
So that powers essentially everything that we have on board for all. Pretty much all purposes. So multiple computers, that's even like the power hungry video editing laptop, and also charge up all the phones, multiple cameras, drone batteries. The drone actually sucks up a lot of power. So that's the kind of tech, but then also the Instant Pot for cooking. It's kind of like a crock pot sort of. It's like a crock pot /
it's a pressure
cooker thing. So we could power that. We could power pretty much anything.
Yeah, so we've got our ARB refrigerator. We've got a June bug in here. So we've got our ARB refrigerator that we power. All of our lights. We have 2 max air fans on the roof that are powered off of solar, as well as 3 just regular fans that are mounted inside. Let's see. I'm trying to think what else. We have multiple outlets for like cell phones and things like that. You already mentioned that. I can't think of anything else, but so far we've used it a lot so far and have not had any problems whatsoever with
it'd be
power
easier
usage.
to say, like, it'd basically be easier to ask the question, like, what will it not power? Basically, if we don't have a rooftop air conditioner on this van, if we did, it wouldn't power that. It also wouldn't power like a space heater. It would power it technically. We could turn it on, but it would drain the batteries at a rate that's not really good for the batteries. So it would kind of decrease the lifespan of the batteries. So
for all intents and purposes, it wouldn't power.
Basically
space
it
heater.
basically wouldn't power it. Yeah.
Okay, so heating and air conditioning. That's the only thing that we can't power off of this setup. Cool. So now for everyone else, like as they're looking at getting a solar setup put into their van or whatever it may be, how do you go about choosing the size of your solar setup?
So ideally, you would do a power audit. You would go through and you would see exactly how much power you used, what each one of your electronic articles, like the electronic things, like how much they used, how much they took, how long you ran them, how long it took to charge. Once they're charged, how much do they use? Like all these like numbers and stuff, and from our very scientific measurement of watching people on Facebook groups, people aren't going to do that. Like if you're new to solar, you're not going to go through that, because honestly, I mean, it is pretty technical. It's pretty, and it's monotonous. It's
very confusing too.
Confusing.
I remember doing it on our first, or attempting to do it on our first solar setup in the motorhome, and it was so confusing. And by the end of it, I was just like, I don't know, we're going to need like 10 million amp hours. So
yeah. So that's the technical answer. Now the real answer is, honestly, it's like set a budget and set a budget like that would be, it's like I would be willing to spend this much money to not have to have a generator, or whatever your goal is with solar. It's like I'd be willing to spend this much money to not have to run my engine to power to charge my computer or whatever the case may be, and then work backwards from there. You're going to be getting a detailed list of everything that we have bought. There's a link in the description where you can download like exact parts, an exact part list. So then you can use that kind of as a basis to work backwards from your budget with.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, now how do the batteries right here get charged?
Batteries get charged off of solar. Sunny days, bright sunny days. They can be charged. They also get charged off of the alternator when we're driving around, and then that charges at a very quick rate as well. So they stay pretty much topped off after a long road trip. Also charge them up off of this cord I've got laying right here that can be plugged into either a generator if we decide to carry a generator. I don't think we're gonna need to, but we could. The other way would be we could plug into just a standard household outlet that you find at somebody's house or at like a campground or something like that.
Perfect. Cool. So those are the main questions that we have gotten so far. If you guys have any other questions, be sure to ask them in the comments below, and we will be responding to them, answering them as thoroughly as possible. And then for any other like major questions that if we've missed or if we weren't clear on anything, we're totally open to doing more videos in the future to better explain everything. As Nate said, we have a downloadable spreadsheet and wiring diagram in the description. So if you click on that link, you'll be taken to our website where you can download all of that information. And we've got all of the exact parts that we bought as well as the budget for this whole setup, and what else do we have in there? The wiring diagram. The wiring diagram with exact sizes of wires and lugs and everything. It's pretty detailed.
If you're gonna get frustrated on designing a solar panel system, it's like finding your solar controller, easy. Finding your distribution, easy. Easy. What's hard and what's frustrating, at least on my end, is like knowing that you need whatever 4/aught lugs with 3/8 inch holes, and then you need 2 for it. It's like all these different numbers, and so it's like that's what's really going to help on the spreadsheet. Also wiring. The first solar panel array we did, we wasted a lot of money on wiring because we bought too much. And we didn't buy this ultra flexible stuff that we'll talk about later. So yeah, that's really where that thing comes in handy. So hit the description below and get that downloadable link.
Yeah. So let's get into more of the details of this.
Perfect. Okay, so let's jump into this section of the video, which is basically I am going to go over in pretty broad terms what all of these parts are. We're not going to get into, the fact that that's a Midnight Classic 150 and that's it's like, we're just going to be talking super, super basic terms here so that if you are a total beginner to solar, you know what these parts are even called to where you can start your own research onto finding out what you need. So, I think let's just jump right into it. So, down here is batteries. We can get a little bit more detailed and we can say that these are both 12-volt batteries. They're AGM batteries, which means that they essentially can be put into a space that's not vented. If you get like a normal, like a golf cart battery like you're going to see, they need to be in a vented area. So that's basically that. So yeah, batteries. Moving on from there, we have wires. Like I said, very basic level. These are our wires. Going up from there, we have a fuse. This is a resettable fuse. Going over to this side, this is called a shunt, and it's on the negative battery cable that's going to the inverter. And what a shunt does is it's basically a battery monitor. It tells you how much power is coming into or out of the batteries at any given time. So if we have these lights on, it's telling us that these lights are using whatever, like 3 amps or something. So that's basically what that does. If we're charging, its power is going back across the shunt, and then it's just being able to measure. So think of it like a little wheel. It can spin this way really fast, or it can spin this way really slow. Or it can spin the opposite way really fast, or it can spin the opposite way really slow. And kind of just tells you how much power is coming in or going out. This on the bottom of the shunt is called a whiz bang. And what it does is it essentially helps the shunt gather more information. It's a computer board. I don't really know how it works, but that's what it does. So, going on from there, I do want to jump back over to the fuse real quick. What a fuse does is if something goes wrong in this whole system, if 2 of these wires rub together and they cause a short, and it protects the system, it protects the wires. If there's too much current going through them, the wires could catch on fire. But this is basically protecting the wires so that if too much power is going through, this little button just flips over, and then you can just reset it rather than your wires catching on fire. Okay, this is the inverter, and this one is a inverter and charger. So basically what it does is it takes the 12-volt power from the batteries and turns it into 110-volt, which is what, at least in the United States, what you can plug into the wall. Like a house or something like that. So we use that for like the Instant Pot, and we've tried to minimize the 110 stuff, but just your normal household plug. The other part of this is, like I said, it's an inverter and a charger. And so what the charger can do is, that's whenever I was talking about that you can plug into the generator or a household plug. It can charge the batteries. off of the 110 power from the generator or for the household plugs. So basically, from batteries to 110 and from 110 to batteries. That's what this does. Okay, this is another type of fuse. Does essentially the same thing as that. Okay, moving up from there, we have this item and this item. What these two items are, I'm actually going to take these off so you can see in it. They're both about the same build. It's called a bus bar, and what it is it's just a flat strip of metal that's got bolts through it, and it basically distributes wires. So basically we've got one wire coming in here, and then it branches off to other places. That is essentially an organizational tool in wiring. Obviously our wires are pretty well organized, and bus bars is one of those things that just kind of helps you stay organized. Without it, if you didn't do these, basically you just have a big mess of ugly, like a bird's nest looking thing on top of your batteries, and that's not very good practice. Okay, from the bus bars, let's just go right here. What this is, so we're tracing this way, we're going through another fuse. This is our power distribution block. And this is, if you could think of it like this, would be basically a fuse block, very, very similar to what is probably underneath the dash of your car. Power is coming into it, and then power is going out of it to like our fans and our charging stations up front, like USB outlets. The lighting, these lights are powered by it. It goes right here and then goes up to there. Our fans, all that kind of power is powered off of, or is distributed through the power distribution block. So, working our way this direction from this one, we're going up here. So this is called an ACR, which is an automatic charging relay. And what it does is it allows us to combine or separate this battery bank from the starting battery bank. The reason that's important is if we are parked somewhere for 3 days and we're running our lights and our fans and all that kind of stuff. If we are draining these batteries, which is fine, that's what they're made for. If we're draining these batteries, we want to keep our starting battery fully charged. We don't want to be draining our starting battery because we need to be able to start the engine. So if we have a charge, if we don't, let's say we have a cloudy day, we're not really drawing any solar power, but we're running all of our lights and charging all of our stuff. It's going to separate this bank from the starting bank, and we're just going to draw this bank down. Now, let's say we fire up the engine and we start driving somewhere, or remember, because we can charge in two ways, driving or we get sunlight. So one of those two ways, this combines the batteries, and then it allows it to charge whatever charging way, whether it be driving or solar or into a wall. It allows us to charge all the batteries, every battery we have on the Sprinter. So both of these batteries and then the starting battery. So that is basically what that's for. It allows us to combine or separate the battery banks. Okay, going on from there is this. That is our solar controller, and it is a very large box that basically serves one purpose, and that one purpose is to turn the power that is generated from the solar panels into a power that is usable by the batteries, usable to charge the batteries. And I'm about to say something that I don't know the reason, but that's okay. I don't really think I need to know the reason. I don't know why power coming from the solar panels can't go directly into the batteries, but like I said, not something I necessarily need to know. What we do need to know is the cables coming from the solar panels needs to go through your solar controller, so your solar controller can optimize the power from the solar panels into a form that is usable by the batteries. So that is everything, I believe. So, like I said, that is a pretty broad overview. Hopefully just kind of touched on basically what the individual components are without getting too technical. we're going to go over all of the individual, or I'm sorry, in the downloadable sheet, you're going to get a basically what all the like part numbers and all this kind of stuff and where to find all this stuff. That's going to be in the downloadable sheet. And then we are about to move on to wiring with Steph, and she is going to talk to you about all the wiring and all the fuses and everything like that. So I will turn it over to her.
Okay, so basically we will take it back to square one, where we basically decided where we were going to install all of the different components for our solar panel system. So that we installed the batteries right in front of the rear wheel wells, and we figured right above that would be a perfect spot to put all of the different components for the solar panel system. And so basically we had all of our wiring ran basically up to the left, you can see right behind me, and that goes into the house. So basically we have all of those wires that we will end up tidying up at the end of the video, and that's where they all were. So basically we just had a board that we were going to be installing right above the batteries, and so we were able to basically make it pretty modular in the fact that we could just bring the board inside of the garage and set it up on a table and then wire everything up in there. If you can do this, that's the easiest way to do it. But if not, I mean, it's not the end of the world, but it is nice to be able to stand at a table and put everything out and, you know, talk about where we were going to put everything and make sure everything, all the wires were going to be nice and run very like efficiently and everything like that. So what we're working on now is we're installing the Whiz Bang Jr. onto the shunt, and basically that is a monitoring system to tell your system how much power is coming into and out of your batteries at any given time. So the goal with doing it like this was, like I said, basically to keep a really organized board of solar system components and everything like that. And what we're doing here is we are just about to start wiring up the inverter. Doing it out like this was a really good way to keep all of our different our wires runs as short as possible, which in a 12-volt system is you know, a really good idea. So on all of these wires, we ended up getting those the yellow tool right there closest to the bottom of the screen is our wire crimpers, and the wires that we used on the inverter are 4/0 wire, and it's 4/0 welding wire. And those crimpers that we got, you know, you'll have the link to purchase those in the description. Those worked wonderfully for those particular wires, and after that we just heat shrinked. So if you're pretty new to 12-volt systems, as you're looking at this, all of the red wires are positive and all of the black wires are negative. So we wired the shunt up to the negative side of the inverter, and then we wired the positive side of the inverter to the fuse. It's a 500 amp fuse. And then both of those would get wired to the batteries once we get it moved into the Sprinter. What we're wiring up here is we are wiring from the right side, I don't, for a lack of a better word, from the right side of the shunt to the bus bar. And so how the shunt works is on one side, on the left side of the shunt is going to be the battery, is going to go to the battery. On the right side of the shunt is going to go to everything else. So the inverter is going to be on the right side of the shunt, the bus bar, the distribution block, all that's going to be off to the right hand side, because you think of the shunt as basically a meter or a gauge, and basically the center of the shunt is the gauge, if you will. So we've got the right side of the shunt, it is wired up to the negative bus bar, and so now we have essentially have negative power to the bus bar. What we're running there is the negative ground. It's the ground to the inverter. So that just protects the inverter if something shorts out inside of the inverter. It makes it just a little added safety. So what we're wiring up here is the negative side of the power distribution block, and the power distribution block is where we plug in all of our lights and fans and everything like that. All the little accessories that we have throughout the van. Okay, so what we're hooking up here is we are hooking up the negative cable to the, oh, I'm sorry. We're working with positive wire. I'm waiting to see what exactly we wired up next. Okay, so yeah, so what we're working on there is that's a fuse that's going to go from the batteries to the positive bus bar. So we've got a resettable breaker or fuse. I kind of use those terms interchangeably. Not really the same thing, but they kind of do the same thing. So we have that positive bus bar protected by that fuse. And now we are about to run the positive wire from the bus bar through a resettable breaker to the power distribution block. For the most part, we haven't started bolting anything down to the board yet. We're getting everything wired up as short as wire runs as we can, and then we'll bolt everything down once we're in and have it in a spot that we like everything. So right now we are trying to set up and figure out exactly where we want to be putting the solar controller, which is the item on the far left that we're working on wiring right now. And so that is going to go over to, so the side that charges in, oh, I'm sorry. So the solar controller that's what I was talking about there on the far left side, that is what turns the, basically the solar power from the panels into power usable by the batteries, essentially. So on the in the description, you're gonna get a link to download a basically a wiring diagram with all of the sizes that we use, sizes of wire, and the lug sizes and all that kind of stuff. It is worth noting that the wire that we used for the solar controller was welding wire, and for the particular gauge that we used, which you'll see on the wiring diagram, because I don't remember off the top of my head, that wire is actually a little too big in diameter for that, so that's something worth noting. We were able to get it to fit, but it was technically a little too big and was a very tight fit. Okay, so we have wired in both of the positive wires from the going to and from the solar controller. Both have a fuse on each end of it. One end is going to be going to the solar panels, and the other end is going to be going into the positive bus bar. And there's also a negative wire from the negative bus bar into the solar controller as well. So positive and negative wires both into and out of the solar controller. So what we were doing there is we have these little zip tie, what you'd call those, little zip tie holders that basically allowed us to keep our wire routing really nice and neat, and keep routing as short as possible. And we kind of like to keep everything nice and neat. It makes everything to where if you have to troubleshoot eventually, or if something goes wrong, you can see exactly what it is you're dealing with. So what we're messing with there is the ACR, and we're trying to find a good spot for it. So what the ACR is it combines or separates your house batteries from your starting batteries. And I think we actually installed that inside the van, but we'll get to that in just a second. Okay, so once we had everything mounted onto the board, we brought the entire board and just scooted it into place, and then put it into place actually up above the batteries. We made a little pedestal for right above the batteries to kind of hold them in place, and that's basically how we keep the batteries secured down to the floor. I know one of the questions we're going to see is, it's like, well, what if you roll over? What if you have like a really, really bad accident? Like, is that going to hold? It's like, well, I mean, probably not, but honestly, a lot of stuff like goes out the window whenever, in the case of a wreck. So we just did it, the best we, as good as we saw fit for that particular thing. So that's kind of what we did. It's secured down, so if it's down a bumpy road, it's not going to bounce around. But if we wreck, there's no telling what'll happen in a wreck. So I just wanted to address that really quick. Okay, so basically what we're doing here is we are going to be going through and we are going to be wiring all of the different wires into the area. So the only thing that's really worth noting in this particular spot is wiring the batteries to the inverter, and the best way to do that is literally to go to the wiring diagram and see how those are wired, because we can show you, but it's the wires loop around a little bit, and it's not quite as effective as looking at like basically the wiring diagram. So anyway, all of the wires that are laying in front of the batteries are the wires that go to the lights and the fans and the 12-volt outlets and the USB cords and all that kind of stuff. So honestly, we're just going to super fast forward through all of this because there's nothing of super importance at this point. This is one of the super time-consuming pieces, and I don't feel like it really brings any value to the rest of the video. So we are going to fast forward to this, and then we're going to move on to the next section. So let's talk about the solar panel part of the build. So honestly, the solar panels is pretty straightforward. It's whenever the way that we wired it was just in parallel, which means that all of the positives get wired together and all of the negatives get wired together. For our particular one, we actually we sized the wires up just a little bit, and we wired the front two solar panels together, positive to positive, negative to negative, and then ran that one wire back to the junction box, and then we wired the next two further back together, positive to positive, negative to negative, and ran that back to the junction box, and then we had one more solar panel that we just ran those directly to the junction box. And then once we were in the junction box, we connected all of those positives together and all of the negatives together. So that's basically how we wired those. It's pretty straightforward, and it's probably best if you check out the wiring diagram that we've included in the description below. So let's move on to the next section.
Okay, so one of the other questions we have gotten on our solar panel system and setup and electrics in general is how we ran the wires. So I know this isn't like exactly like directly tied to solar, but I don't think it had I don't think I wanted to make a totally different video talking about how we wired everything up. So let's talk about that really quick. Okay, so you were seeing how the wires were running up to either side of the walls of the camper van, back underneath where the batteries are. So we're back here in the bedroom, basically. We didn't wire any of our wires back behind the walls. Everything was, we weren't sure exactly where everything was going to be ran, and so we wired everything external of the walls. And so there is one of them back there. That one houses the wires that goes back to the, goes up to the solar panels, and I'm going to get a little closer to that. So that's just in a black split loom. And then over here, this is where the main majority of the wires go. So if I kind of move up to the top a little bit, right in there, you can see the wires. There's a lot of wires in there. And those are the ones that go to the LED lights and everything like that. Right up there is not super clean looking, but honestly, like, you can't really see it. Yeah, pretty much ever.
So that is the black wire loom, and when you're zoomed in on it, it looks, I don't know. It's not as clean as like putting it behind the walls, but honestly behind the walls just wasn't feasible for our purposes, and it looks fine the way it is. So that one is that. And then as far as like where we ran after that was back here in, everything just got ran along the top of the, let's see, that's a little dark. Let me see if I can turn that up some. Okay, so like right in there, that's the same wire that's going up front for random wires and 12 volt plugs, all that kind of stuff. We come to this closet, and same wire gets ran along the top of the closet. Same thing over here. I don't need to open that, it looks the same. And then it got ran. So we do have a few wires that are kind of messy up here. Those are ones I just installed like yesterday, so I haven't taken the time to take the zip ties off and fix those up. So anyway, that'll be something we do later. So that's how we ran these. That's how we ran those wires on that side. I got myself in the shot. Okay, so on the other side, when we're talking about running the wires for in the kitchen area, let me get down in there. Okay, so those wires actually go underneath that area on the bottom of the kitchen unit, and some go up top, and then some, let's see, those ones go to some lighting, and I'm not sure what the other ones go to, but anyway, those go to some lights. And then these over here go to the 110 outlets. Being plugged in right there is for the coffee maker. And then some of the other ones is this, there's another 110 outlet over here. And then there's also, all of those are going to this stuff right over here, which is our ARB refrigerator. And that plugs in right back there. And then those other wires, they go there. That's the back of the 110 outlet. And then this is kind of our main control hub, if you will. So that's the Midnight solar controller. It's a little out of focus. That's the best I can do for now. So yeah, so that's the Midnight solar controller, which tells us how much power we're bringing in and how much power is going out right now. It's kind of cloudy out, so we're losing some power. Anyway, that's really not the point. I'm not going to talk about how to set that up. That'll be another day, another deal. So anyway, these are our three switches for our lights, and this is a 12 volt here, just 12 volt plug, and then this is a USB like dual outlet, and so we can charge anything in there. So also over here we have the same little setup for USB and 12 volt. And then also, so this is our drawer that we have a bunch of our camera gear and everything like that. Excuse the cords, but this is basically we wanted a drawer that we could charge all of our equipment up inside of the drawer, and so we've got that inside of there. So that is that. We got some fans in here. Those are wired back to the back along the wire loom. All of these lights on the ceiling are wired back through that loom. Let's see, the fans, all of the fantastic vent fans are wired back through that loom. And really that's honestly about the extent of that. It's pretty straightforward. Like the messiest spot we have right now is this spot right up here that's right above the door, above our mosquito net. And
We will finish that out, but we just kind of lack inspiration on that right now. We're not exactly sure how we're going to finish it out, so we're just kind of still brainstorming ideas on how to finish that out and make it look even better. But that's just a few of the, it's either the fans or the lights, those wires up in there. But that's fairly nitpicky, I believe. I think that is all of the wiring on that. So let's hop over to the wiring diagram, and I'll pull up the wiring diagram that you'll have a chance to download and kind of talk about the things that you're going to see on that and how to read that wiring diagram. Okay, before we hop over into the wiring diagram, I wanted to show everybody who's watching basically our parts list. This would be the grocery shopping list, if you will, for our total solar panel setup, solar system array, whatever you want to call it. Anyway, this is a website and a list we have put together that shows everybody all of the exact parts that we used, and they basically just an easy way to purchase everything in one easy spot, other than like trying to find your own and add it and not sure if it's the right one and all that kind of stuff. So basically we've got everything from fuses, temperature sensors, to junction boxes, to the bus bars, to the shunts, and everything in between. So how this works is the link you can click in the description below is going to take you to a page that looks pretty similar to this, and you're going to find DIY Campervan Solar System 1 of 2 and DIY Campervan Solar System 2 of 2. You can click into either one or both of those, and then you can see which parts are in there. And so this is how this works. Most of these are available at Amazon, and then there's like 5 items out of the whole thing that are available not at Amazon. So like the solar panels are only available at eBay. We felt like those were better than anything that was on Amazon, and so we listed those, and those are the ones we used. So what you can do is you can go through and you can check out each individual item. Just click on it and it'll pull it up at Amazon. Or what you can do is, if you wanted to investigate all of them at the same time, you can click Buy All on Amazon. That's right there at the top. And so what it's going to do is going to say continue to add 14 products from this kit to your Amazon shopping cart. Other available products in this kit are not available to purchase on Amazon US. Okay, so we're just going to click Buy on Amazon. Now that doesn't actually buy it, it just puts everything into your cart, and so then you can, from your cart, then you can start investigating things. So I'm going to hit continue, and then you can go through and you can see all the prices, and you can see, you can click on, you're like, oh, what's this, I don't even know what this part is, what is this? So you can click on it and check it out and see what it is, and then you can go back to your cart, all that kind of stuff. So you've got all your fuses, all of the shunt, the resettable breakers, all that kind of stuff. Hop back over here into kit.com on our profile here, and we'll go to DIY Campervan Solar System 2 of 2. I'm going to do the same thing, buy all on Amazon, and then we're going to hit add to cart. And then it's going to add all of those to cart. So now we've got all of the lugs that you would need to do our exact system, all of the wire that you would need, all of that stuff. So we're not trying to toot our own horn here, but this is this is a lot of information. This would, if you needed to get up and rolling on a solar panel system for your camper van or for your RV, we've pretty much already done all the legwork. Now we do need to put a little disclaimer out there that these are all affiliate links for us, but it doesn't cost you any extra. This is basically how this works, is if you buy through this website, it costs the same as if you were to go on Amazon.com, but Amazon basically pays us an advertising fee for it. So no cost to you. We get a little bit of a commission, basically helping you guys out. Hopefully that's pretty much how that works. Any rate, but it doesn't have anything to do with we're trying to promote one brand or the other. This is just all the stuff that we picked out ourselves. So that is our little disclaimer on that. So anyway, that is basically the shopping list, and we are going to hop over into the wiring diagram.
Okay, so our two wiring diagrams that we are going to give to you guys is one of them is going to look like this, and is basically, yeah, it's just a bunch of boxes and with a bunch of details on it. The other one is going to look like this, which is pretty much just, kind of to reference back and forth between the two. We weren't able to put the wire sizes on this as it got really, really messy. And all that kind of stuff, which is why we have this one. So use both of them, and we tried to put all of the different components in about the same place on both of the different wiring diagrams, but you can kind of see, basically how they relate to each other. So I kind of want to talk about just like how to read these for the most part. So we'll just start with, so let's take a look at all of the boxes. So all of the boxes are the different components. Inside of each of the components is its general term, like inverter or power distribution block or ACR or charge or solar controller, those kind of terms that are very broad. Then next to those in the parentheses are your numbers. And what the numbers are, the numbers actually reference to in the blog post over this, which is going to be at adventureinthebackpack.com/DIY campervan solar. That's where that's going to be found. There's going to be a link to that in the description. And you just go to the numbers, and those are the links where you could purchase these exact items, or not necessarily even purchase if you're not wanting to purchase, but you can just go and look and see all the specifics for those particular items. That is what that is going to be for. So that's what the parentheses are. We really did try to make the all the wires and stuff, the positives are the reds, the negatives are the blacks, and then the blue wires are wires that aren't necessarily positive or negative, such as the like from the ACR to the ACR switch, kind of up there on the topmost blue wire. That's a wire that's got like 5 or 6 different wires in it, and some of them are positive, some of them are negative, and some of them are just communication wires. The lowest blue wire, like for the display monitor, that one's also a communication wire, which is actually just like a telephone wire. So those are why those are blue. Okay, so the other things that we need to talk about, we'll talk about fuses. So you see a bunch of fuses with the numbers in parentheses out to the side. We have the amperage ratings for each of the fuses. That's going to be in the blog post, so reference that as well. And then on each of the wire sizes, so you see like going from the battery to so the numbers just to the left of the inverter on the positive and negative wires, the black text, it's got a 4/0. That is a 4/0 cable. 4/0 is pretty much 0, I guess. But anyway, that's its terminology is 4/0 cable. Talking about cable, I do highly recommend getting welding cable, as it's way more flexible than THHN, which you can buy at like Home Depot or Lowe's, but it is almost so stiff you can't really work with it. Okay, so that is the wire sizes. So the like number 1 wire, that's basically 1 AWG, 1 gauge wire, 4 gauge wire, 2/0 wire, all of those. So that's all wire sizes. The green numbers are like the 5/16 inch, the 3/8 inch. Those are all the terminal sizes. So basically the pieces of metal that go on the end of the wires that connect the wires to the bolts on each one of the each one of the components. And so basically in the shopping list that we're going to give you guys, it's going to have all of those in there. So like if you were building our system, you just basically go into one of the resources that is going to send you to a place called kit.com, and it's going to go to basically our solar store, if you will. It's all through Amazon for the most part, but you could actually go through there and click add all to cart, and you could buy basically our exact same solar setup if you wanted to, if that was the direction you were wanting to head, or if you wanted just more information about those particular components. So on the lugs, they're all in there, and there's all different sizes. So looking at the battery, so right above where it says battery 1, It says 3/8 inch, and so that is the for the batteries that we used. That is a 3/8 inch lug on the top of that battery, and going to a 1/aught cable. So to connect the 1/aught cable to the battery, you need a 1/aught cable, or I'm sorry, a 1/aught by 3/8 inch lug. And so that's kind of the terminology you would need there. So that's how you would figure out the sizes on that. Like I said, we have a shopping list at kit.com. You're going to find that. It's going to be in the description as well as the blog post. So yeah, honestly, that's pretty much it. I could go through and explain this, but I feel like right now it's fairly straightforward on the wiring diagram, and I'm just going to pretty much leave it open to questions. You can ask us questions on this video, on this YouTube video in the descriptions, and that we will try to get back to those as quickly as we can, or on the blog. You can ask questions there, but probably on the YouTube video would be the best spot. But reference this wiring diagram, reference the other wiring diagram, this one right here, and then just ask us any questions that you have going forward, and we would be happy to answer those questions. Be sure to reference the blog post because that has a lot of really good information that Stephanie has put together. And anyway, that is all we're going to talk about on this video. I know it's been very, very long, and so we are going to go ahead and sign off and answer any questions you may have going forward in the comments. So thanks again for watching. Ask us any questions. Be sure to subscribe, and we'll see you guys next time. Good luck.